Go on.
So I know, Ivan, we were chatting about some supplement stuff the other day, weren't we? And I know you dropped the comment of um, multivits not being used to cover all your bases is a bit of a kind of flawed strategy. So I was just wondering kind of what the thought process was behind that, because I've definitely been someone who has used them to maybe give me that safety blanket potentially if I do miss anything with food.
Yeah. So no, that's a good question. I think a lot of people do come with this same notion, thinking that they do need to sort of cover their bases, even though they haven't actually maybe put their diet through an actual micronutrient sort of test. So a good thing that I'd recommend to people is just plugging in your meal plan into something like Chronometer, which will give you a good indicator of your mineral and vitamin status, and then you can sort of see if you actually are deficient in anything, right? Because I think a lot of people, and I would say especially for someone like you, Ed, you eat I would say a very healthy diet in general. I don't, and you're on a lot of calories too. So I don't think a multivitamin would give you sort of any added benefit, because remember, when it comes to like micronutrients, when it comes to anything, more is not always better. So once you sort of hit your RDIs for a lot of these vitamins and minerals, is it optimal to go a little bit higher? Potentially with some, but this is all contextual as well. And unless you get like bloods to tell you, hey, you're deficient in this, and this, which is like very expensive and just a tedious process in general. I think when it comes to micronutrients, if you can get a lot of it through food, you're going to have better absorption, better bioavailability from those nutrients. And because in nature, food and vitamins and all that sort of stuff is absorbed in like a food matrix. So you get the vitamins, minerals, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, fiber, all in one. And there seems to be some sort of synergistic effect that does seem to be better than just these micronutrients taken on their own. I don't know the exact reasoning behind that, but there does seem to be some mechanism going on there. And also, the thing is, a lot of these multivitamins can also give you excess of certain vitamins and minerals that you just don't need, and you end up sort of just excreting out through your urine or through your feces. Especially with like the B vitamins or the water soluble vitamins, that when you do have too many of them, they just end up being flushed out. So does it hurt having a multivitamin? I wouldn't say it hurts you, but would I say you could probably get the same benefits without it? Yeah, for sure. Especially if you look at what micronutrients you're missing and what you may need to add into your diet to get them, I think that would be a much better way to go, in my opinion. Yeah.
What about in harsher calorie deficits? Do you think there's benefit, or?
I potentially I can see the reasoning in a harsher calorie deficit for sure, simply because you may be like very, very low on just like calcium, magnesium, all those sort of things. But again, I would still try to maximize it through food, because usually if you're eating a diet that is high in nutrition as well, usually when you're in a severe calorie deficit, you're going to actually be maximizing sort of high volume foods, right? And luckily for us, high volume foods are usually quite healthy foods too. And there seems to be a good correlation between foods that are very, very, very high in potassium, which is like your vegetables and all that good stuff, that will also come with those vitamins and minerals. I think when you're in a harsh deficit, the ones that are tricky to sort of maybe get would be calcium, just because of if you're cutting out like all your dairy and whatnot, which many people do unnecessarily. But that is probably the biggest one I would see that would go into the toilet. And then vitamin D as well, and things like that, because calcium and vitamin D are very interlinked. But I'm sure we'll talk about vitamin D today. But yeah, in regards to having a multi for the deficit, I can see it being warranted, but I will still try to get it from food if possible.
Yeah, I'm not taking a multi for years actually. I used to think like it was a safety blanket. Then I just realized it was getting expensive, because then I was getting sold on all these really expensive ones, which are like, yeah, take this. This is your safety blanket, and end up being like 40, 50 quid a month. And I was just starting to think, is this really actually doing anything?
Yeah.
And I just found, like, for me, vitamin D is the one staple when it comes to vitamins and minerals that I take year round, especially in the UK.
Yeah.
And I swear by it, especially when I have so much anecdotal evidence for how it's helped my immune system. But it's become like, I don't know if it's part of placebo or actual impact, but yeah. When I start getting some symptoms, I'm like, I jack up the D3, but I always feel much better from it. So
yeah, it's interesting that it's probably a bit of placebo there too, but no,
yeah.
supplements, I think we have spoken about this. If there's one that we would blanket to most people, it would be vitamin D, unless you like live near the equator and are exposed to the heat of sun all the time, and have a diet of a lot of fatty fish, which is not many people at all.
Yeah. They always throw out vitamin D as the especially it's getting more and more coverage now, doesn't it? Like I think they had a recent one come out around COVID. I don't know if you saw that. It's probably too early to tell if it's legit or not, but there's always new sort of immune system studies now with around vitamin D.
It's something that I know a lot of research has shown that people in the UK are the vast majority deficient in. And I was actually talking to a client earlier who works in the health service, and she was saying that she's been kind of had her D3 levels monitored, and she said it's been a big drop with lockdown. I mean, I know we're in winter at the moment as well, but I guess with more and more people just staying inside more as well, it's only going to have more of a negative impact on that as well. So I'm sure the nation's even more deficient than ever at the moment.
Massively. And it's funny that you mentioned that with the whole winter thing, because there is a correlation between low vitamin D levels and obesity, but the correlation is there because having low vitamin D actually makes people want to eat more. Because when you think about it from like an evolutionary standpoint, when vitamin D was low in the blood, that would usually mean that winter was around the corner. You know what I mean? Because there's very little sunlight coming in. So low levels of vitamin D would tell your brain and body, okay, we're about to enter a winter. We need to hibernate. We need to hoard some food. We need to actually put some body fat on, save us through the winter. I mean, that's a crazy theory, right? Like, it's pretty interesting. But that was sort of how they got that link between vitamin D and obesity. Obviously, you know, if you don't have vitamin D, you don't get obese. We know that you need to have an excess of calories, but with that sort of mechanism, low vitamin D levels can actually cause people to want to eat more because their body thinks it's winter, you know, which is cool.
Well, you're leading people down a dangerous excuse here. You can start seeing this. Oh, that's why. Yeah. Oh, it's because of the vitamin D.
I ran out of vitamin D last week. That's why I binged all weekend.
I'm doing it from an evolutionary perspective.
Yeah, but then on the flip side, it's like, okay, well, make sure you get enough vitamin D, either through supplementation or through some sort of sunlight that you can. And this is why we do recommend obviously we're not doctors or anything like that. We're not prescribing anything to anyone, but if there was a recommendation that I would give to like 99% of my clients, it is going to be having some vitamin D, you know, anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 IUs per day seems to be fantastic, which is actually quite easy to get in most supplements these days. And
I definitely overcook it. I go like 8 to 10K a day.
I was going to say, I know you do way more than that, Akash.
Yeah, I do 8 to 10K a day.
You don't need to do that. but again, but you don't do that every day, right? You do that for like a couple of days.
No, I do it every day.
And then what are you doing when you start to get symptoms as well?
20 plus.
Yeah, you can do that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think you could still get the max benefits from like 1,000 or 2,000. Up to 4,000 seems to be like the upper limit.
Well, my tablets are 4,000, so I could probably do it just taking one now.
You probably could. You're saving a bit of money too. So yeah, I'm saving money on multivitamin, but like buying vitamin D every 2 days.
No wonder your multivits are so much. You're probably taking about 7 a day.
Well, vitamin D is quite cheap though, to be fair. And you get these massive, you get it in massive bulks, right? Now, I'm buying like 200 to 400 tabs a day, not a day, at a time.
Vitamin D and fish oil is probably the more expensive one, which we'll talk about later. But vitamin D, creatine, both super cheap, both super effective. And then you got Vitago, bloody $100 sugar, you know, being sold. It's just what the hell, man.
Yeah, everyone should take vitamin D. What about vitamin C? So vitamin C is like, you know, we're in the winter right now, and the default for years, as far as I've known, has always been like, you're feeling a bit of a sniff, you have a vitamin C tablet, you know, one of those effervescent tablets that you put in your water and everything starts
the orange flavor.
Yeah. Sometimes it's even added with sugar, right?
And caffeine as well sometimes.
Yeah. So what's the crack with vitamin C? I think, I don't really take it, but I know it's still thought of as the supplement for common cold. And if you can't have vitamin D, you eat satsumas and all these sorts of things, right?
Yeah. No, I think vitamin C still has some really important roles in the body, but to be deficient in vitamin C, like you gotta try really hard to not eat well. Hey, like you literally just gotta be like, I am never eating a vegetable again. I'm never eating any fruit ever again. That is the only way to sort of be deficient. You're not get not many people are gonna be deficient in vitamin C, you know. So
There's a period I was
even
taking a
people
gram a day, just because I you can
just
imagine where this is
play it
coming from, right? I was
play
thinking,
it safe.
yeah, no, post training, I thought, all right, I'm gonna to improve my recovery, I'm gonna take a gram of vitamin C straight after training. So I was buying this like super premium vitamin C powder, getting a scoop of it and putting it in the shake.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was expensive.
And then did you read about how you don't want to really
Antioxidants.
dampen inflammation after that?
Yeah.
You don't want to what, sorry?
You don't want to dampen inflammation after
Yeah,
training.
yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
either.
Yeah.
It's funny how these things go full circle.
Yeah, I was taking vitamin C tablets post training, so I read something about its impact on increased testosterone levels.
Oh, yeah, you did as well, then, yeah.
But then, yeah, I was doing that, and then I, constantly came across the research of like, wanting to avoid, ultra physiological doses of like antioxidants to suppress the because you obviously don't want to suppress the inflammation from the workout.
Yeah.
And then just canned all of that, and I'm taking it since, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting because there was a phase where everyone was trying their best to reduce inflammation post training. Then it went the other way of like, now to keep inflammation high.
And then people started avoiding fruit after training because they didn't want antioxidants.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, you're missing the point. Like, you're gonna get some, but the amount of antioxidants you're gonna get in some fruit is very different to like just overdosing. And I think that goes back to the first point of what we spoke about with a multivitamin. You know, like if you have some fruit, you have some vegetables, usually you're going to be getting enough of what you need in those foods if you have just adequate serving sizes, right? Compared to getting a gram of vitamin C just from like a powder without anything else around it. And this is why people want to try this. This is very popular in the naturopathic world where people do like vitamin C flushes, and this is for people. People use this for constipation or just as a laxative effect. People would sort of they'll start off with like a couple grams of vitamin C and water, and then every hour they'll add like another 5 or 10 grams until you go. And again, this is not a solution to why you're constipated. This is not what we recommend because there's a reason that you're constipated, and you need to get to the bottom of that. And this whole vitamin C flush laxative thing is just a band-aid, right? But yeah, it does work, and the reason it works is because there's only so much. The notion is that your body will absorb as much vitamin C as it needs throughout that time. So they'll propose that you're constipated and you feel lethargic because you don't have enough vitamin C in your system. So if you do this vitamin C flush, your cells will take in as much as they need, and everything else gets excreted. So you get this like euphoria feeling of feeling fantastic after just cleansing yourself. You know, I've done it. I've done it like a couple of years ago when I used to buy into all this nonsense. So raising my hand up, and you do feel great, but it's more of just like because you've just gone to the bathroom. You've had poo-phoria, you know. But it's yeah, so things like that, excess B vitamins, excess magnesium. You know, magnesium oxide was one of those things that got pushed a lot. You know, when people were trying to differentiate between good quality magnesium and bad quality magnesium, and it's like anything that ends with ATE is usually like a good form of magnesium because it's attached to an amino acid. But when you get like magnesium oxide, it was like the cheapest magnesium that would just make people like destroy the toilet the next day, thinking that's a good thing. You know, it's like, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I went down the magnesium rabbit hole for a while as well. Like, I was trying to, and then I was like, glycinate was meant to be the best one of all of them. It was the most expensive one.
Yeah.
So I'd self-citrate most of the time, but if I had a bit of extra cash, I'd go with glycinate.
Yeah. So no, I think vitamin C is one of those things that you definitely don't need to be over supplementing with it. I think the whole notion with regards to helping you with the flu, I think there's definitely some evidence there. But if you are eating just a healthy, nutritious diet, you don't need to go overboard with vitamin C. It's not going to do you any extra good. But unless you already are super deficient, that's the only time it's going to help.
Yeah. So we covered vitamin D, vitamin C, and I think the next one worth covering is fish oil or omega-3s, and their role in the body and whether it's useful taking it. I've certainly got a couple of stories I want to share around fish oil, and that would be good to talk about. But let's first go into the physiology of why. I should probably shouldn't say fish oil. Let me say omega-3s, because that's what we're going for here. What's the crack with omega-3s, and how can you get omega-3s both from as a meat eater, but also as a vegetarian and vegan, if that's your dietary choice?
Yeah. So I think with when it comes to omega-3s, you're going to be speaking about they are the essential fatty acids, omega-3s and omega-6. I think we mentioned this on our video in our family group, that you don't have to worry about getting omega-6s in the diet. Everyone can get omega-6s in just by eating normal foods. It's definitely not hard to get. The one that people will struggle with the most is going to be your omega-3s, which are ALA and LA, alpha linolenic acid, I think.
Yep.
I think I get the ones confused, and there's another one, L something acid. Forgot the name. But then ALA is sort of the essential fatty acid, what used to be thought as the essential fatty acid that we need to get in, and because that is what gets broken down into EPA and DHA in the body. But recent research is now showing that it's not ALA that does the good stuff in the body. It is the EPA and DHA. So as long as we are getting those are the true essential fatty acids. So meaning that we do need to obtain them through the diet. If you're someone who does eat a good amount of fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, herring, tuna. Tuna is not the best source, but there is a little bit there. Sardines are really good source. I hate them, but they're a good source. Then you're gonna be pretty good. But if those foods are not in your diet regularly, then you're going to have to supplement some sort of fish oil. EPA, DHA, we recommend anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5 grams per day, give or take. You don't have to worry too much about being exactly on, 2 grams. Aim for 2 grams per day for most people.
2 grams of EPA, DHA combination, or 2 grams of fish oil?
Yeah, 2 grams EPA, DHA combined. Yeah. So that's relatively easy to find. We spoke about it again in the family with regards to the quality group.
I know what Ed's laughing at. He's like, that's quite low. I went up to a gram per percentage body fat.
Don't get me wrong, that might help in severe cases of muscle breakdown disorders or some serious illness. And what were we saying?
Ed is going to a bottle a week for a while.
Yeah.
I haven't done it myself, but I've heard stories of people taking up to 15 grams a day of direct, not just fish oil, but actual, direct EHA and DHA.
I think the highest I went up to was 6 grams. That's expensive. I was like, that's the most I can afford right now.
Yeah, I think I was 3 to 5 was the range I was doing before. But now, to be honest, I try and eat fatty fish a couple of times a week now.
Yeah. Again, as always, if you can get it through food, that's going to be the best. But if you can't get it through those means, then you're going to have to go the supplemental route. And so EPA, DHA combined. If you're plant-based, we also spoke about this. About everything in the family group. That if you are consuming things like flax seeds and hemp, thinking that you're getting omega-3s because of the ALA content, you're not actually getting much EPA or DHA in there. Conversion rate is about 5%, which is horrific. It does seem to be a little bit higher in vegetarians, vegans, and women, which can go up to about 15 to 20%, especially in pregnant women, which is really interesting. It's like the body knows that the baby needs EPA and DHA, and it's really just trying to extract it. So some mechanisms upregulate, which is really cool. But even then, highest would be like 25, 30% in the most efficient sort of converters, meaning that still you're losing a lot. Especially with the amount of calories that come with flax seeds and stuff like that, the amount you got to consume is just ridiculous. Imagine trying to get EPA, DHA on a deficit.
Yeah, it's
I've got 700 grams of flax.
Why am I gaining weight?
Yeah.
3 hours of cardio a day just to step maintenance.
Yeah, got to get the omegas in there. So this is why we recommend supplementing with some sort of algae-based product, because algae, when you think about it, is probably the master of EPA, DHA, because our fatty fish friends, they eat the algae to get their EPA and DHA. So that's like the pristine source when you think about it.
And I think with recommendations, the recommendations for algae is actually lower than than oily fish, isn't it? So like maybe it's just like it must just be a more potent source as well.
Yeah.
So I know another thing we touched on when we were talking about that, there was just like the quality side of it as well. Was just, and so it's just making sure that when you do go out to buy these supplements that you're getting the levels of what you want and not just fish oil basically, because a lot of these that you do buy, it'll tell you maybe to take 3 caps a day or something, but when you actually look at the amount of the omega-3s you're actually getting in there, they can be relatively low, and that's why using good sources. Also, I know you touched on before, Ivan, about some of them need to be kept refrigerated in order to not go rancid, and so this is a really easy one to, if you buy a cheap or poor quality product, it is just a waste of money and you're not actually going to be getting what you think you are.
Yeah, just on the quality thing, is that I think I'd say 99% of the products out there are crap. If you look, as in most of the dosages are rubbish, and most of the quality of the ingredients are poor as well. I was also thinking about why we fell for those mega high dosages on a lot of different things. And I think before, a lot of the supplement companies used to push the fact that you couldn't get any of this in food because food quality was being so bad. So you can't get anything from foods, you have to supplement. I think a lot of it came from that, is why the drive for supplements really took off, because there was the whole thing around. Do you remember that, right? It was like, the soil isn't good.
Yeah, on the surface, it sounds really plausible.
Yeah. The soil isn't good. The quality of food has gone down. Magnesium used to get loads of magnesium in green plants, but now you get nothing. So you have to take these things, and I think a lot of it comes from that.
Mm-hmm. And then if you're training hard, you need more, etc., etc. But and the thing is, when you actually look at the people who are the biggest proponents of supplements, they normally own a supplement line. The people who are really pushing it, they do normally either have either their name on some products, or at least collaborating with some, which makes obviously financial sense to them, doesn't it? But,
easy to sell. Very easy to sell.
Yeah, definitely one of the easiest things to sell. Yeah, that I fell for that massively. Like I went through a phase. I was thinking anything that wasn't organic, wasn't free range in terms of vegetables and fruits, that wasn't worth buying. And that's another thing that gets pushed down a lot because of the soil quality and the fertilizers and all these sorts of things. But I think it's definitely a mid ground that we have to be a bit more sensible with our shopping, because it's just not feasible otherwise.
Yeah, and a good way to just know, like, am I getting enough magnesium, this and that, like, just how are you feeling in general? And unless you actually get like blood work done, who's ever actually felt their magnesium supplement, or you may think that you're feeling it. You may be thinking that you're covering your bases and this and that. And
I think this goes back to the placebo thing, though, doesn't it? That we talked about before. Because I know when I started supplementing with magnesium, years ago, before bed, I'd wake up the next morning and was like, "Phew, I slept so well after taking that magnesium." The reality is, I could have probably slept exactly the same 2 nights before, but woken up and just thought, oh, okay, that was just an average night's sleep. But because you remember, I probably woke up thinking it was average. And I was like, wait, I took that magnesium, didn't I? Oh, yeah, that sleep was quality, actually.
I mean, Ed, but look, you're still, even after all that, you're still taking the insurance policy of your multivit.
Oh, yeah. And to be honest, I still feel like my nails grow faster, my hair grows faster.
Placebo is massive. We talked about it quite a few times recently in this supplement series. I think a lot of it in supplements is like, look at me with vitamin D. I think if I don't take 2 tablets, I'm gonna get a cold, and I put that on my. That's my like thing for like staying.
Yeah. But imagine falling for that with other things. Imagine being like, well, I can't train unless I get my pre-workout.
Yeah.
Nuts. Yeah. That's how they get you.
Yeah.
That's how they get you. They invent a problem and then invent a solution.
Yeah, well, that's business 101.
Yeah.
There's a couple other. You mentioned refrigerating fish oil, and just reminded me of probiotics, because that's another massive product that even until recently I was doing it as well. Anytime I take antibiotics, I was like, I'll take a probiotic to balance it out. And it was only the recent when I had a really heavy antibiotic dose last year from some infection. I think I messaged both you guys. What do you think about taking a probiotic? And you're like, don't waste your time. And I was like, thank God for that. I saving 50 quid.
They're expensive. Big
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah, those are expensive. Probiotics, good quality probiotics. Like I was getting that VSL3, that stuff. That's super expensive. It's not cheap.
See that? Good quality probiotics, but it's like you don't even know
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, good quality probiotics. Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
the problem is, because obviously like laugh about good quality, but even like the actual true experts on gut health and stuff like that, the real experts, not the people that
Not
are just
us,
trying to.
by the
So
way.
yeah. No, yeah, we're definitely not. Or at least the people who know the most are really open with the fact that it's an area that we have a really, really little understanding of. And so even like the experts still don't have anywhere near the full picture on it. So anyone trying to claim that something will definitely improve gut health or that you have to take certain products is just, there's no way because of just human knowledge at this point that they can actually back that up with like solid rationale. And although it appears that, some probiotics might be able to aid certain issues, there's so many different types out there that you need to match the right type with the certain issue. And potentially if you put the wrong one with a certain issue, you're just going to exacerbate it because, again, I'm not an expert, but like throwing the balance out even more or whatever like that. So it's something that I've never done myself. But it's because I just feel like I just don't have the understanding to even know where to start to actually do it effectively almost.
It's one of those ones, if you don't know anything, it sounds like a really good idea. But when you start reading a little bit about it, you start seeing all these different strains and you're just like, well, actually, there's so much more here that doesn't make any sense.
A lot of it doesn't make any sense because even with the whole like the antibiotics thing, I think that you asked me that a few weeks ago, and when you look at the research that tries to prove any of that, it's non-existent. Like you're better off just going back to your normal diet and letting your own gut repopulate itself because it already has its like microbiome blueprint in there. So whatever was killed, it's not killed forever. It's remember we are born with our own specific microbiome, and this is all predetermined, by the way. So unless and again, like things can impact this at birth. If you were a natural born, if you were breastfed, if all those things happened, then by probability, you're going to have a more robust, healthier microbiome because you were exposed to those things early on. If you were a cesarean, if you weren't breastfed, your microbiome will be different. And that can also lead to immune issues. That can also lead, this is a lot of theories behind why kids get sick usually comes down to this, were you breastfed and were you cesarean, which is really interesting. And so that shows that like how much impact, what do you think you can do to really like change your microbiome? It's sort of just saying, it's like your genetics. You have a genetic blueprint. Can you maximize your genetic blueprint? Yes. Are any of us going to be Ronnie Coleman? No. But we can still do the best that we can with our genetics. Same with the microbiome. You're going to have a certain microbiome at birth, and you need to learn to sort of work with that microbiome. To think that you can just change it and this and that. Yes, eating a diet of whole foods and everything that we sort of recommend for a nutrition standpoint can maximize your own microbiome to a great degree. But thinking that you now have to be adding probiotics and all these additional supplements, you're not getting any benefits from that because, as Ed was saying, you don't know what these strains are going to do in your body because you're just literally just throwing a bunch of people that the good way to think about this is your microbiome, everyone that's been in there has been together for like years and years. It's one happy family. And then someone just throws in a probiotic to come ruin the party, to be like, hey, I'm here. Like a completely foreign person has just come into your party and everyone's like, what's this guy fucking doing? And that is pretty much what you're doing when you're taking a probiotic because it's not, you don't know how it's going to react. You don't know if this person's welcome, if this is a friend, or if he's like just going to kill all of you. But people think that because they have a bowel movement enough to take a probiotic, that, oh, it's effective, it's working. It doesn't mean it's effective. It just means that you've just flushed things out. And you got to remember, once you've taken that probiotic, those probiotic organisms are not gonna build up in your microbiome. It's just going to be flushed out. So you're not doing anything really by taking a probiotic, from my understanding at this point in time. Unless you have like really, really chronic IBS, that is the only place where it's been shown to have some benefit for symptom relief. Other than that, you don't need to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's having a doctor telling you what type of a probiotic to use and dosagings. That, like, if you're buying what my mum and dad use them, those little, like, they're almost like little milk drinks that you
Yakult.
have with your breakfast. Yeah, like Yakult little things, like the good bacteria and all that crap. And it's all right, you have that, but it's all right as long as you just have, you can have your full English, but as long as you just got a little Yakult next to it.
Not by your cult. Yeah.
It's so well marketed though. Like, if you think that supplement is such an easy thing to market, because you can create such a problem that you don't really understand. But you're like, actually, just to cover it comes back to that insurance policy. Just to cover my bases, I'm going to take it anyway. Like, if you think about how probiotics are sold, like, it's so.
Are you feeling foggy? Do you feel you got a bit of brain fog? Are you losing focus? Less energy throughout the day? Are you bloated? It's probably your microbiome. Did you know you have 10 billion bacteria in your gut? That outweighs your entire body in cells by like 10 times. That is crazy. Your gut is you. Are you really going to neglect your gut by not taking a probiotic?
That voice you put on there. That voice is very enticing.
I think the supplements just feed into our need for that quick fix, though, or our susceptibility to that quick fix mentality, because they're the ultimate thing, isn't it? You pay some money, you take a pill, and it's going to sort your issues. Like, that sounds so much easier and more attractive than, what, actually you're going to have to gain control over your diet. You're going to have to be active on a consistent basis. Like, why would you want to do that when potentially you could just take a pill?
The craziest thing I've done. So there's the story of fish oil, right? So go back to fish oil. So, there was a whole thing around fish oil keeps you insulin sensitive, which I'm sure there's some links to insulin sensitivity. But I was at a point where I was just trying to minimize insulin at all times. And I was on holiday in, I think it was Turkey. And I was at an all-inclusive, right? And then I wasn't doing anything crazy, just eating a normal meal. And then I had ice cream to finish, but I forgot my fish oil tablets. And normally what I was doing, like, if I had carbs or sugar in a meal, I'd have, like, I think 3 or 4 caps of fish oil. This time I forgot the tablets. So I got up, finished the meal, and I think I was with some friends, and I was like, guys, I'm just gonna pop back to the room. I ran to the room, and I was like, I got a 10-minute window to get this in. And I ran, all inclusives can be quite big, right? So you got to get literally legging it to my room. Got there, found the pills, popped them, and I was like, oh, I'm safe. Like, my insulin sensitivity in check, and those carbs aren't going to make me fat anymore. And then I ran back and acted like nothing happened. But yeah, that was a real craze. I was doing for a long time, man. I was hooked to these fish oil tablets, thinking this is how I stay lean.
Yeah, but people get trapped in these things, like these mental prisons they have, because they don't understand things. Yeah, and this is us guys. Everyone's listening to this. Like, we've all fallen for this sort of stuff. All of us. Yeah.
I even worked in a supplement shop for a bit, right? I did one summer in a supplement shop. It was called Bodywise, and I was positioned in front of so there was 3 branches locally, and they put me in the one in front of Gold's Gym, because I was a little bit bigger than the average person. They put me in front of Gold's Gym to try and sell mass gainers to the people coming by. So they would walk in, and I'd try and sell them on, like, whey protein or mass gainers and all these sorts of things. Yeah. But they had every single supplement you could think of. And when there wasn't many people in there, it was quite quiet. Short. I was just literally dusting shelves and dusting the supplement tablets.
Yeah.
But I think I must have tried literally everything, because I had the discount as well. So I was like, I'll try this week, try that next week. And the shop was run by some fat guy as well. And the fat guy was always, when he was training me, like, quote unquote training me, he was telling me all these magical benefits, and I'd try it. I'd go home and I'd tell my parents that I got this supplement. This is going to give us loads of energy, so let's all try it for the week. And yeah.
Wait, are you saying someone in the fitness industry tried to con you?
Someone what? Not in the.
Someone in the fitness industry tried to lie to you. Are you serious?
But the crazy thing is, I don't think he was in the industry. I think he just had a supplement shop. The guy was fat. Like, he was really overweight, and he looked like he never trained in his life. Never ate well.
Well, so you can be an online coach then.
Yeah, probably could have. Yeah, I remember it was a summer job, and this is when I was also eating like 6 times a day. So, in a normal work and you're on the shop floor, so you're there 9 till 6, but you only get a 1 hour lunch break. And I said to him, on the first day, I was like, look, I've got these fitness ambitions. So I need to eat 6 times a day. Because of that, can I split my lunch break into 3 20-minute blocks? And like it took him a while to get over that. So what I'd basically end up doing is like 9 to 11, 20 minutes, 11:30 till 1:30, 20 minutes, and then I'd eat. I'd run back to behind the storage cupboard, and then eat my meal, and then come back onto the floor. And that was my life for months.
Yeah. But even though it's maybe as over the top it shows that when you prioritize something, you make it happen.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, that will always be an underlying thing. We've all done crazy things like that, you know. All in good fun.
Yeah, you learn from all, right? You spend 5 years doing 5 years doing things, and you're like, I could have got all the same results in about a year. But
But you still did it.
I think also it does, you know, it feels so easy now just to like tick those basic boxes. Whereas like when you've gone to these extreme efforts to do things that ultimately like aren't a deal breaker really, once you're used to all of that, suddenly you realize like, oh, actually it's just like, say, calories the most important thing, or as long as I get my protein across the day, suddenly it's like, oh my God, this is actually pretty easy. Like as long as I just use a bit of like organize or like plan ahead a bit, remain organized, like after all of the stupid stuff we've done, which all these like protocols and all this stuff, like it's like actually I can just calm down as long as I'm just kind of sensible.
Liberating, isn't it?
Yeah,
like when
it's crazy.
Like you go through that bell curve of like not knowing anything, then you know a little bit, and you over the top, you do everything over the top, and then you come out the other side, and you're like, well, actually, this is really easy. You stop taking your Tupperwares everywhere. You stop trying to eat 6 times a day. It just the mental stress you release off that, you end up starting. I remember when it clicked for me, like all of a sudden I was getting stronger every week. All of a sudden I was looking better each week. I felt less stressed. Everything just started coming together, and I was like, what was I doing all this time? But you go through that period, right? Everyone has to go through that rite of passage.
It's almost like a factor of like just not caring as much, because I know like there's a time where if I was going to squat the next day, that night before I'd be like, I'd be eating my dinner, thinking, right, this has got to fuel my squat. I've got to get to the like, and so I was eating while I'm getting to bed, but like I was almost like living that preset routine for like
visualizing in bed.
Yeah, like a good like 16 hours leading up to it. Whereas like now I don't even think about my session until I'm just getting ready for the gym, basically. Like having my coffee or whatever, and my progress is way better. I'm not like, sometimes I'd psych myself out of a set 24 hours before even doing it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like now it's like you just rock up and you're like, all right, you know, I need time to work hard. And again, like if someone's using a certain machine in the gym, whereas a few years ago you might have been like, oh no, that's the exercise I have to do now in my program. It's like, all right, well, I can just train the same muscle in a fairly similar way by just doing this instead. Like, you know, as long as I push that set hard, you know, who cares?
Well, I think
like you said, it's just liberating,
you're caring less, but it's still a priority.
Yeah. No, I think caring is a maybe not the right way to say, but I think it's just understanding what's important and then not worrying about those little 0.5% things, because as long as you hit like the 80%ers, that's where the main stuff's going to come.
You understand principles.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. When the set comes, you're more in it than ever, and you're giving it your all, but it's not taken over the day before as well. And you know that applies to nutrition and whatever as well.
Just before we go on air, Ivan was having quite a big rant about priorities. So do you want to finish us off with a little bit of a rant on priorities?
Yeah,
because I think that's the underlying theme of a lot of this.
Yeah, well, I think it just reminded me also when you were talking about how you would do the crazy lunch breaks and you'd do all these crazy things. All of us would do these crazy things because it was such a priority to us, and we would just make it happen. And I've literally just over this last couple of weeks, I've just realized that you can make any excuse in the world. You can have the chips fall against you. You can have everything around you burning to the ground. Something is a priority to you. No matter what it is, you will make it happen. There's no ifs or buts about that. You can argue all you want. You can deny it all you want. You can be like, no, but. That's it. If you really want to do something and it's a priority to you for not just now, but for the rest of your life, you will find a way to do it no matter what. Like I know I'm a little bit different, but with my own sort of thing, no matter what time I go to bed, like if I have to on the odd occasion socialize and then come home late or whatever it is, you know, and I'll wake up the next day and I'm like absolutely battered, or, you know, if we've had like a lot of meetings in the evening or whatever, and I still get up super early the next day. And sometimes like I'm really tired, but I will always, no matter what, still do my cardio in the morning, no matter what. And as soon as I get on there, and as soon as even if it's hard, I'm like, it's fine. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And every time it just gets better. And it's always going to be a priority for me. It's always just going to be something that I do. I could make excuses. I could be like, well, I don't need to do it. You know, I've done it yesterday. I've already done it the last 300 days in a row. I don't need to do 301 days. I don't need to do that. It's fine. I went to bed late. I'm not recovered. I could say all those things, but I don't. I just get on there and I just do it. You know, some days are good, some days are bad. Doesn't matter. I just do it because it's a priority for me, and I make it happen regardless. You know, no one gets in that time for me, no matter what. Don't care who you are. That's my time for me because it's a priority to me because I know it sets me up for my day. That's all I've come down to realize. You know, if something does mean a lot to you, you will find a way to make it work. Busy at home, busy with work, busy with family, don't care. Find a way to make you a priority, and you'll never need motivation again. I don't believe in motivation at all. I think motivation is a joke. I think you need motivation for things that you don't want to do. Simple. So the key is to want to do the things that you know you have to do. The end.
That's a wrap.